welcome to the Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus spoiler cast here on the Tiny Disc podcast. I am Robert Scarpanito. I'm joined here by Jack Cepeda.
Wolfenstein.
Yes. And Colin is not with us because he still hasn't played or beaten the game. So, Colin, if you're listening to this, stop listening. Listener, if you haven't beaten the game and don't want to be spoiled on BJ's wonderful adventures through neo-Nazi America, stop listening. And without further ado, let the spoilers commence.
What a crazy, crazy game. I just have to say off the top, I was expecting a good game and a good story. What I got was a good game with a great story. Fantastic.
Like, absolutely. This game, the story is definitely what drives it the most for me. You know, like, it's hard to find some of those games where even if the gameplay is really good, you're kind of in that mode of like, I'm just doing this to find out what the next cutscene has in store for me, you know, like.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel that way, which isn't to say the gameplay is bad. It's just that's how good the story is.
It definitely, the gameplay, served to further the story, right? And vice versa. And I just couldn't help but like keep playing. Like I was like, I have to see what happens next. I have to see what happens next. I feel like every 5 minutes or so in the story of this game, something happened. I'm like, well, there's just no way I can go to sleep now. I have to see, what's going on. Like, well, I'm just obviously going to play this now for 3-4 more hours. But at the same time, there were moments, and we'll get into it, but there were moments where I was like, holy shit, I have to actually stand up and walk away for a minute. You know what I mean? Like, I have to like just mentally process what happened in this game.
So yeah, with that, let's tackle this, I think, in a chronological sense. I think that'd probably be the best way to make sure we hit all the story points we want to hit that are like really important without missing anything and things slipping through the cracks.
Let's start at the start.
Yes. So, wow, the start. Okay. In the first 15 minutes, I don't remember if I said it on the main podcast, but I had to walk away. I had to just be like, I need to process these emotions that it's giving me. And it was specifically at the part where your dad's like, kill the dog.
Well, don't jump just to that. I mean, other crazy stuff happens before then, too.
Yeah. But that to me is like the highlight of the intro. But I guess to pull back a little bit. So it picks up, as we said, right where the first game ends. Like the same frame, same scene, BJ bleeding out, dying. And his friends find him, all the resistance get there. And like, man, I remember very specifically because you're seeing that scene in first person from BJ. So you're like looking up to them, like while you're on the stretcher or whatever, while they're carrying you to like the ship to get you out of there.
And your guts are falling out of your body.
Yeah. And literally one of them says his intestines are out of his body. And I'm like, fuck, that's not something I want to hear.
Is this the part where you're in the wheelchair or are we getting to that?
Well, I mean, we're going to get to that, I guess. So,
okay.
Yeah. Like, so they spend like, they patch you up, put you back together, and you're in a coma for like weeks, right? And as he's in this coma, they kind of flash back to BJ's like childhood memories. So, there are scenes where his mom like locks him in the closet because his dad, Rip, is like looking for him to tear him a new one or something. And Sophia, the mom's like, no, I will not let you hurt my son, not our son. My son.
Mm-hmm. And the whole reason his dad is looking for him is because he saw him playing with a black girl. And this is like what, like the 60s or so?
Well,
I guess the 40s. No, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it'd be around the 40s. And I remember the game very like specifically. Rip would say like he'd use the N-word. He used it twice in that first 10 minutes to describe this little girl. You know, like I won't have my son getting sweet on some little N-word. You know, like that to me set this tone of like, man, his dad is an ass.
Yeah, total dick. He just abuses everybody and everything around him, and he doesn't care about anyone except number one.
Yeah. And like one of the childhood memories ends with him like choking, like Rip choking little BJ out and saying, the old and the weak are doomed, and you're so frail, and just like literally bullying his son.
And this is after he smacks his mom down on the ground, throws the dog against the wall. It's like, it's so brutal. And it's like, it puts you in that feeling, right? Of feeling helpless and fragile. It makes you feel powerless as a little kid right away.
Yeah. And it's in those moments that I kind of put together like just how BJ became the Nazi killing machine he is, right? Because you have this rugged harshness from his dad, you know, who's very clearly like ends justify the means, you know, I do what's good for me. I'm a selfish person who'll fight for whatever and whoever I can to get what I need, which in a way like really embodies what BJ's become. But he still has that gentle nature from his mom's side, you know, like you see that a lot in the first game when he's like meeting Anya and he falls in love with her and all that. So it all kind of comes together to create this beautiful Nazi killing machine.
Also part of the story of note, I didn't know this. I didn't play maybe about half of the first game, so maybe this is revealed later, or earlier, I mean. But in this game, I didn't realize that BJ's half Jewish, right? His mother, Zofia. And it's revealed that, well, why would Rip, his dad, ever marry Zofia? It's revealed in that beginning part, like, it was only because it was to his advantage. Right. And to meet his means. That's all. He used her basically for whatever reason to get ahead in life. And he ends up, you know, later on using her again to get ahead. So it's such a sad, tragic beginning. And it kind of culminates into that scene you called out earlier.
Yeah, where he wants you to kill your dog. Rip like ties BJ to this little thing. I don't really know how to describe it.
Yeah, like a weird saddle kind of thing. I don't know. It's a weird thing in the basement, and he ties your hands down, puts a shotgun, and ties your dog down, puts a shotgun in your hands, and tells you to shoot your own dog.
Yeah. Question: did you actually shoot the dog or not?
Hell no. I was like, oh, thank God, at least I can aim away and pull the trigger that way. And the whole time, I never 1 second went by where I was like, I'm gonna kill this dog. Like, no way.
Right. But
did you do the same thing?
Yeah, no, I aimed far and away as far as I could. And for me, I was like, is this going to be far enough? Like, shotgun spread. I'm worried it's still going to graze the dog.
Right.
But luckily it misses. But then your dad's like, you're a piece of shit. And then he picks up the gun and just guns the dog down.
Oh, yeah. And it's brutal, dude.
Yeah. Man,
it's so rough. That was one of those parts I'm like, wow, this game is not playing. It's one of the most brutal intros I can ever think of in any game. Seriously. It's like Quentin Tarantino Kill Bill levels, right? Of just like pain and suffering.
And then they put BJ in a wheelchair and he guns down a bunch of Nazis.
In a wheelchair, by the way, with SMGs, which was such a cool way to start the game off gameplay wise as well. But it's interesting. They're like, oh, I know what we're going to do. Wolfenstein II, tank controls.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, all right. Tank controls, fine. Well, this works. And somehow it did work.
Yeah. So they give you the tank controls there. You meet like quite a few of the different resistance members. And just to kind of keep things going, you eventually get this power suit that was once used by Caroline from the last game, who is the leader of the rebellion group, the Kreisau Circle. And
right. Which is a cool name.
Yeah. And the moment where you see her die, like, wowee. That was a moment that really set up Frau Engel if you haven't played the first game.
Yeah, so we're also introduced, right, to the crazy villain, Engel, in this game. And you're introduced to her daughter, Sigrun, as well in this scene. And the parallels, right? There's like 3 parallel things happening there in the beginning where BJ's dad, Rip, is telling him to kill the dog. And then you have Engel telling Sigrun, her daughter, to behead the lady. And then, if you remember as well, in the U-boat, there was also the one guy, I can't remember his name already, I'm forgetting it, but he's telling Max Huss to kill the pig for food. Oh,
yeah.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name because he's kind of like, that's the only scene I remember him being in, even in this game.
No, it's like the Jamaican guy, right?
Is it the Jamaican guy who says it?
Yeah.
Then Bombate.
Thank you. Bombate. He's like telling Maxus, he's giving him the knife, like, hey, piggy needs to be food now. So it's like interesting that all 3 of those happen very, you know, kind of densely. It's almost like an echo, right?
Yeah.
Echo. So it's an interesting thing. So back to the execution. It was kind of gross too. I've never seen quite a graphic behead. I've seen beheadings in games before, but this one like really hit home because she like just revels in Engel's pure evil, right? She holds up the head right to your face. Then she like puts it up to her daughter's face and makes like a kissing noise. Mm-hmm. And then puts the head like I don't even want to say it. She just does really gross stuff with the head.
Yeah.
Like just like, wow.
it puts that beheading in Skyrim when you go to like that northern winter town, if you remember that, or no,
That's
Solitude.
nothing. Yeah, that's nothing.
That's like nothing compared to this. It's insane.
Seriously. Yeah.
But that's also the moment where you finally get to put your feet in that power suit and you finally get to feel a little bit of that power fantasy that is BJ motherfucking Blazkowicz.
I was getting serious Dead Space vibes from that suit.
Same.
And it was cool though. But I was like, oh, rest in peace, Dead Space.
Yeah. So you use that suit, you get out of the Ostmerzer and you free the German U-boat, the Evas Hammer, right? You free that thing from their clutches. And your new mission is basically just to start a rebellion, a revolution, the Second American Revolution in 1961 America, where the Nazis won and they've taken over everything. So you start your journey in New York, like New York.
Post nuked New York.
Yeah, which by the way was bombed.
That's basically how the Nazis win World War II in this alternate timeline. They discover nuclear fission first, whatever. They come up with the first atom bomb and they use it on America's mainland.
Yeah, and man, I'm so glad that the fact that New York was bombed wasn't just a detail, but it was like you get to live it. You get to see what New York has become because of it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you run through those levels, you get to Grace Walker, who is one of the newer cast members, and you meet her husband, Super Spesh, which are the most 60s fucking characters I've ever seen in a game.
I love that scene where you meet Grace and Spesh. It was just such a great character moment for her. She really is the Jules Winfield from Pulp Fiction, right? Like the female version of that. I mean, it was so great. And just the acting and the eye acting, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In this game. For a video game, it had some of the best, like, motion capture, facial recognition stuff that I've ever seen in a game. It was awesome. And the cinematography, too, with the camera panning. It was just so well done, I thought.
Yeah, just the way that you're introduced to their characters, I thought I wouldn't like the newer characters in Wolfenstein 2 as much, and that's maybe about half true, which is better than I expected, to be honest, because Grace Walker is fantastic. Like, she takes control of the Kreisau Circle at that point, but you're kind of okay with it because she's such an interesting, like, she's the kind of character who uses motherfucking like every other word, every other sentence, you know?
She's got sass. Is she pregnant or at that part, or does she just have a kid already?
She has a kid already.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah.
Or well, maybe. Oh man, I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it.
There's so much in this game. It's hard to keep it all, straight with just one playthrough. Right. And the game, does reward multiple playthroughs as well.
So yeah, I mean, basically, she and Super Spesh are a thing. And Super Spesh, she's a fun character. I love how he's like, yeah, I used to be a lawyer, but also there are aliens out there, man.
They're all dripping with character, man. They're all very well developed. They all have great arcs. I mean, it was a great ensemble. BJ is a good character, but he's surrounded by a great ensemble cast.
Absolutely. So after you recruit them, Grace Walker is like, okay, here's your next mission. Infiltrate the Oberkommandant or whatever, like the big
Oberkommand.
The big super cool place in Roswell, New Mexico, and just set off a nuke in it. You can do that, right, BJ? Of course you can.
Man, they like found like alien technology or something, right? And they're like using it. That shit's crazy.
But yeah, so this is the point where you finally get to that scene that was in like one of the first trailers for this game, where you get to see like a small American town that's been Nazified, but they're like celebrating and they're happy for their new overlords who finally brought them peace. Yeah. And there's that scene, right, where BJ's in that diner and he's just hanging out there with that fire extinguisher or whatever, and that
full of nuke,
and that Nazi commander comes in and he's like, "Can I have a strawberry milkshake? Those are really good." Haha.
Yeah.
Who are you, sir? You seem very Aryan. Just like he's talking to you, right? And he's like, "Let me see your papers."
Oh yeah.
Like, that was so cool.
It was so weird seeing just small town America, seeing like a Nazi parade and like Americans cheering and like, welcoming it with open arms. Before that scene too, as well, I want to come back to this, but before that scene, in the diner with the milkshake, there was a scene as well right off the top where two guys are walking around in KKK full regalia, and the Nazi guy is sitting there like, oh, I hope you are enjoying your new masters now or whatever. And they're like, oh, and they have like Southern accents. They're like, oh, yes, sir. We'd love it. Nazis forever, and all this stuff. And it just really made me laugh. Like, this interaction, for one, I don't really listen to idle chatter too often in video games, but in this game, it's so good that I had to just stand there and listen to this entire like 5-minute conversation. But it made me think like the developers of the game really thought about like, what if actual Nazis took over actual Southern America, the whole country. Like you have to take all our stupid people too, right? You can't just have like the smart, good people in America. You get all the dummies. And that scene really brought that home because he's trying to say, have you learned German? Do you know how to say thank you in German? And they're like, danke,
Dankeschön,
Dankeschön. And the Nazi soldier just gets mad at them because they're so dumb. And he's like, you need to practice. You're destroying my beautiful language. And they're like, oh, sorry, sir. I promise we'll work on it harder. I promise. And it just really made me laugh so hard because I was like, this is what would actually happen if like real ass Nazis talk to like, Kentucky people here in the hills, like, man, just go ahead, man, just go do your thing. It sounds like Boomhauer.
Yeah,
and it made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, no, I was kind of a big fan of how they actually brought back the KKK for this to show that like, it's not just the Nazis, right? That could be evil in this new America.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, just the way that they portrayed like this is the new status quo, right? Like if you were living in this America, that's probably what your life would be like. Where you're enjoying this parade, where thank God for our new overlords and our new saviors. And I don't know if you read many of the like the newspapers and the letters and the papers that are scattered around, but they show a lot of like opinion pieces that are published in newspapers in the universe where people are saying stuff like there's no point in fighting against the Nazis, like they've won the war, and frankly they're more efficient and they're better than any of our previous leaders could have ever been, and stuff like just like making quote common sense arguments as to why like just let it happen, it's all good, it's all fine.
Pretty good world building. I definitely was reading a lot more than I do in a lot of these games with just a lot of things to pick up and read and invest time in. But then towards like the second half of it, I know you had already beat the game, and I was just kind of trying to rush and catch up with you, so I kind of stopped reading them. But I know that they were thoughtfully done for sure.
Yes,
and worth the time.
Yeah. So you play through the game some more. You blow up Roswell, New Mexico with a nuke. Because why not?
It's so crazy that because I know it's coming, right? Like blowing up Roswell, New Mexico with a nuke is usually the finale of any video game. This is like the second chapter of this game. It gets so much crazier than that.
Yeah, and then it gets to my personal favorite part of the game.
Yeah, one of the highlights for sure.
Yeah, where BJ takes a detour to Mesquite, Texas, his hometown, back to his Blaskowitz home. And you get to explore. It's basically a walking simulator.
It
right?
is.
Just like out of nowhere, you get to explore all these context clues. You get to trigger cutscenes by like walking to different sections. And wow, I don't think like normally when it comes to shooting games, like you want the gameplay to be high octane like all the time, usually. But this, it was a welcome change
for sure
that I loved with how much it developed BJ in that moment. Because keep in mind, he is like a broken man. Like his inner monologue throughout this whole part of the game is like, I'm close to death on you, but I can't tell you because if I tell you, it'll be more of a burden on you. And
right, because he's in that suit. That's the only thing keeping him alive because he's literally, about to die right before he gets put in that mech suit.
Yeah, so he's like on his last breath. And he decides, let's revisit my old home. And you get to see like cutscenes of him hanging out with Billy, the young African-American girl. And, just having childlike fun.
Those scenes are rough because she like, they're laying in the grass and she confesses to him. And keep in mind, she has to be really brave to say this because he's white, she's black. That's a no-no, in that time in America. And it's just sad, but that's reality. And she like has to whisper that she has a crush on him. And he just, and that scene was just like, man, that was rough. And then the part where the rat is drowning in the bucket and BJ doesn't really care, but she cares and she has compassion. She doesn't want the rat to drown. It's very powerful stuff, man. And then you think it can't get any crazier, and then you go into the house.
Yeah, you walk into the house, man. The house is in shambles.
Oh, it was scary.
Hell.
I was like, this is scary stuff.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of free. I was in the house by myself. Like I was in my house by myself in the dark, and I was like, oh, looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. If I had to guess, the main point of him being there, right, was to pick up that ring that his mom showed him, like way back in the beginning. His mom showed him that ring, like, this is very important, but don't let your dad see it. You know how your dad is.
It was in the family for generations, she said.
Yes.
For 8 generations.
So he was going back to get it, presumably, and you know, this is a spoiler cast, to marry Anya, or to propose to her at the very least.
Exactly.
So yeah, you get up to the master bedroom, you rifle through the drawers, you find the ring.
Dude, I so believed it when he saw that ring. Like, I so believed that character, like, found, you know, like, the purpose of his life.
Yeah.
Like, just his reaction to it when he found the ring and, like, held it close to his chest. I just thought it was a very well acted scene.
Yeah, and it's extra tough, too, right? Because, you know, like, he just found his purpose after he knows his time is really short. Like, he knows he has, like, 2 weeks at most.
Man, yeah. Heavy.
And the camera pans around, and right behind him, sitting on a chair... Rip motherfucking Blazkowicz.
His dad is there, you wouldn't expect him to be there because it's like a desolate house, right? It's like what's the word I'm looking for?
Dilapidated, broken
dilapidated.
down.
It's just it's a derelict. That's the word.
Yeah.
It's a derelict house. There's no one should be living there. And his dad even says, right? He says, like, I knew you were coming here. Or I heard you were, somehow he caught wind that BJ might be there, and he has a much nicer ranch, you know, like 600 acres or something like that. And he said, like, far away, but he came here to see his son, not because he misses him, but because he wants to kill him
or turn him in.
Yeah, because
like, at the very least.
His dad is on the Nazi side. His dad, if you also pick up around the ranch, if you pick up all the things to read, you can also tell that he turned in all his neighbors. He sold everybody out to the Nazis.
He sold his own wife out. He sold BJ's mom out.
Turned him in. He said it's a white man's world. You know, they took all the, I'll just say he took all the people out. He said other words besides that, but they took all those blank, blank, and blank out. And white man got to keep it Christian. That's what he said.
No, I remember when I was reading one of the notes, and one of the notes hinted at, like, Rip could have sold out Zofia. I remember reading that and feeling like, he fucking didn't. Did he fuck?
It's fucking crazy. You wouldn't think,
him so much. Like, you have this seething hatred for him. And then when you actually see his face, never ever wanted to punch my monitor so bad. Because it's like, you're a douche.
Well... So what happens is, we'll propel forward. What happens is he holds a gun to BJ's head, and BJ's like, you know, there was a time where I would have been scared of you, where I would have felt, you know, like running away, balling up and crying. But you know what I feel now? Absolutely nothing. And he smacks the shotgun away, and then craziness. It cuts to gameplay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. I literally said that out loud when that happened. And like, yeah, you get to be the person, you don't watch it, but you actually get to chop your own dad's arm off and then put a fucking hatchet in his chest and kill him.
That felt good. That felt really good. It shouldn't have, but wow.
It was crazy, man. It was a huge buildup, and that was the kind of the finale. And I was just thinking, like, man, this game is so chock full of people I hate. You know, you've got Angle, you've got your dad. Like, oh, it's just red hot rage going on. And I don't know. Did you also before that though? Did you end up going to the basement?
Yes.
Me too. And like, you go back to the part where he kills your dog and everything. And it's also of note that outside you get to visit where you buried your dog too. Mm-hmm. And you get to deal with that cutscene too. So it all culminates in you doing your dad in finally once and for all. And crazy moment.
Like, that whole set piece would be a moment that could be like near the end of the game, but we're like not even halfway through.
It's maybe like the 33% mark, right?
Yeah. Okay. So the next scene is, of course, the Hitlers have found him, the Nazis have found him, and they know he's in that house, and they just like pull the house out of the ground, and that whole like gameplay scene is just you fighting in a house that's flying through the air, and you're trying
it looks so good when it happened. That game looks so good on PC. The whole house rotates 90 degrees on its side, and then you have to like traverse up to the top of that pile of old house, right? while you're fighting Nazis, by the way, in the sky.
Yeah, it's a really cool moment. And
in Mesquite, Texas.
Like, you eventually break the claws that are grabbing the house falls, and you're broken, beaten, scarred. The Nazis just crowbar the suit off of your body.
Oh yeah.
And BJ is captured. And I remember at that moment feeling like, whoa, where could this go? Where can this game go from here? There's more, but I want to know more.
It's so crazy. This game is crazy,
wow. There's so much. Okay.
There is.
So that scene where Super Spesh breaks in to the cell and is like, we're gonna help
He's your
you out.
lawyer,
You. Yeah.
And weeks go by, by the way.
Right. So like at this point, BJ's probably like near death. You know, like there's not much you can do. So Super Spesh breaks in, or not breaks in, but he infiltrates, and then like tries to pull some sneaky shenanigans, and it all backfires. And Frau Engel knew from the beginning, and the Nazi guard who was like being quote tricked was playing it up, and they're all like having a laugh, like, oh, that was some really good acting, you should be at Hollywood.
That was such a heartbreaking scene for me. I mean, that really for some reason resonated with me, because he's detailing the well-laid plan that the resistance set in place to get BJ out of there. He mentions that his wife, his pregnant girlfriend, and the resistance fighters are hiding. They're ready to drive them away. They have this, it's all figured out. It's going to be foolproof. And then as soon as they implement the plan, you think it's going to work. Nope. Spesh gets done in.
Yeah.
It did.
What I like is that it kind of subverts your expectations, right? Because usually it's like, well, this is the lowest point we've reached, so the good guys have to come out on top somehow, right?
No.
And the Nazis just hold a big old middle finger right into your face, and you're like, no, you're gonna die today, BJ. Like, there's no getting out of this one.
Engel has a lot of scary moments in this game, but for me, this is one that just really sticks out. Just such a crazy scene where after she kills Spesh, you're like pinned up against you're like tied to a girder, right, or something like that, and you're like pinned up against the wall, and she kills your friend, and then she sticks the gun like in your mouth, and she's like, do you remember what she said? She's like, can you taste that? She's like, can you taste the gunpowder that just killed your friend? And the look on her face when she's saying it is just like she's just loving every second of it. She's just frolicking in the misery. It's so messed up, and my skin just crawls thinking about that part.
Absolutely. So they move on to the scene where you're in the courtroom and they're trying you for like countless murders.
Yeah, because you're considered, to Nazi America, you're considered, public enemy number one. You're
the worst terrorist.
You're the worst terrorist in all of time, and you've killed tens of thousands of Nazis, which is a fact, but it's just matter of perspective, I guess.
Terror Billy, right?
Yeah.
And so they do the thing where it's like, we pronounce you guilty, we're going to send you to execution, and you break out of your chains and you beat up all the Nazis and you kill all of them, which is literally a power fantasy. Like, it's literally
awesome. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is so easy. I'm just rolling over these Nazis. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Bring them on. And
I remember at that point feeling like, okay, this is a little ridiculous even for Wolfenstein, because they keep establishing that BJ is a dead man walking. There's no way he can do all this. Yeah. And it culminated into whole, like, this was just a dream sequence, right? But the way they ended it, where he gets out of the courtroom and he finds his mom, who's just like sitting there, and he's like, I can't do this anymore, Mama. I don't want to do this anymore. Man, that was a lot to take from someone who's just, like, he's a Nazi killing machine, and seeing him break down and be human, and he's tired of murdering.
Yeah, it was a powerful scene, and then I realized, like, oh, this is just a dream, right? When you see his mom there, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, but I think that was like the best way to tell you, JK, what you just did was a dream,
for sure. And
then they actually execute you,
sentence you to death, and then on the steps of was it the White House, or was it the steps? It was right by the Washington Monument in Washington D.C. It's like a dark day. There's Nazi regalia and swastikas all over the monuments in Washington D.C. Huge crowd out there, live TV audience. It was a very powerful scene when they wheel you out there to be killed.
Yeah, and Frau Engel literally beheads you with a sword, like a katana, and you get to see it happen in first person, which was very unsettling.
And
like,
it's not a clean. Go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that moment in VR. Like, if you were playing that in VR, fuck that.
Yeah, it was not a clean kill either. She takes like 3 hacks at you to get the job done, and it's just like, oh. Oh,
Yeah, and then
wow, man.
there it is. Spread the news, let the world know. Terror Billy has finally been killed.
So my reaction, I want to hear what you thought about that scene, but my reaction to that scene was just like, holy fucking shit. They're pulling a Metal Gear Solid 2. Like, like there's going to be a different playable character now. BJ's dead. They actually went through with it. You're conditioned by games throughout history to say that, well, something's going to happen. You're going to get saved. Something, will go good. You're not really dead. But when she held up his head, right, and for everyone to see, I was like, no, he's fucking dead. Like, we're going to have to play as someone else. This can't be the end of the game. What did you think?
I thought what they were doing was one of those, like at some point they'd freeze frame and be like, this is what will happen. And then they rewind and it'll go back to like the rebellion and they're planning something else. Like, we can't let that happen.
Like a David Cage game, like Detroit.
Yeah, so we're going to have to plan. like, this is the plan. This is our new plan.
That was wrong too.
That was, because what ended up happening is BJ's head falls down. And then while it's obscured, a drone... even just thinking about it is hilarious.
You can't even say this with a straight face. Yeah,
a drone grabs his head and also drops like another mannequin head. So to the outside, it just looks like, oh, BJ's head's falling. It's all over. And then the drone just carries his head through some vents to get it to set Roth, and he connects some cords into his neck hole.
That was so disturbing to watch him just. Just like, I don't know, just like a fork into a Thanksgiving Day turkey, man.
Right. And, he's just like, we only have 20 seconds. We have 20 seconds. We have to get this into him. And before the brain dies.
Yeah. Oh, it was so crazy. Dude, my mouth was just on the floor. I was just like, what is actually happening? And then they pull a Futurama and keep his head alive in a jar.
Yeah. Which, that was great. That was fucking amazing. And while your head's in the jar, everyone's saying like, oh, it's so good to see you still alive, Blazkowicz. We'll figure something out for you.
And then you can control your head in the jar too. You can control your perspective.
Around.
And you're like blinking.
and I just love that in that moment, Seth's like, hey, so we have 3 contraptions for you, but I can only make one of them work, and it will change the gameplay. Which one do you want? And I'm like, I don't know, the one that gives me a fucking body first. Like,
yeah. Which one did you choose? So what are the 3 choices? So you have one, like your shoulders,
like basically shoulder pads,
and then the other one where your feet can your legs extend or something like that. What's the third power?
It gives you a walker, and then the other one's a constrictor, which lets you go through small vents.
Oh yeah. So for stealth, so do you want stealth gameplay, run and gun, or do you want to be opened up to new areas, kind of thing? Which one did you select?
I went with the walkers, but it should be mentioned that you can get all 3 in one playthrough.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Which one did you choose?
I chose the shoulder pads because I loved dual shotgunning and just running all over people. I just loved being a ball of death.
Yeah. No, that was really fun.
Yeah.
No, I eventually got all 3 of them, and it feels really good to be able to use all 3, honestly, whenever you want.
Dude, I didn't know you could do that. Wow.
Yeah, you get them by playing through all the side missions that they unlock near the end of the game.
Oh, okay. I didn't do any of those, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it.
So I shouldn't go back.
No, I would not.
If I go back in this game, it's to play the other storyline.
For absolutely 100%. So yeah, you choose a contraption, and then through some weird neo-Nazi technology, Jewish technology bullshit, they're like, hey, we have a new body for you. We're just gonna.
It was a Nazi engineered perfect human body.
Yeah.
Right. Like what they were trying to achieve with the Aryan race. It was like the perfect specimen, and that's what they attached BJ to.
Yeah, they just plonked his head right on there, and there you go. Now you're playing the game. Now you're playing with power.
Yeah, superpower.
Yeah,
Nazi power.
Yeah, and that's at that point that you finally get 100 HP, but you only get 100 armor as well instead of 200 armor from before.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, man, I loved that moment because that was like so gratifying. It's like I thought BJ would be dead, but now he's like better than before. Like way better.
Man, it was exciting. I was like, okay, well, I genuinely thought that BJ was dead. I genuinely thought the game is just going to throw it to complete left field. It's going to change, and I'm glad it didn't because BJ was a great character, but I was ready for it.
Same. So yeah, your first mission in your new body is to go to New Orleans.
So I just feel like New Orleans, the specter of Katrina. And the memory of that, I feel like, is still like over this country. I think you hear that word and you think of very specific thoughts. And to go to New Orleans, Nazi-controlled New Orleans, where, by the way, they build a wall. Where have you heard this before? They build a wall around an entire city to put the undesirables inside of, and basically starve out and kill and perform genocide.
Basically a giant ghetto.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend
considering where America is today, like in real life.
Yeah.
In this storyline, like, fuck.
So I don't want to spend too much time on the Nolans part, just because to me it was probably the weakest part of the story. You go through these levels and you finally meet Horton Boone, who's the leader of that small resistance. And I feel like they didn't really develop those characters that much. Like they were just kind of there.
They came in at the end.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I said earlier that I liked half of the new characters. This second half here I did not like as much. They were just too new.
What's the name of the guy that plays the clarinet, though?
I don't even know. That's how.
Oh, he's so good, though. That character's good.
That's how new they were. It's like usually I'm pretty good with names, but it's like they didn't give you much time with them, and it's kind of, meh.
That whole scene, though, when he meets Boone, that whole scene was incredible.
Oh, yeah, with like basically them trying to drink each other under the table.
Oh, it was so good. It was such a good scene, man. In any movie, that would have been a great scene.
Yeah.
Let alone a game, I think. It was one of the best scenes, one of the most memorable scenes in the game, I think.
Right. But yeah, so Horton joins your resistance. You set off another nuke, by the way, to help free your ship by using the shockwave of the nuke to free your ship from like being hinged or something on the land or some shit.
As someone who's actually been in the presence and in and around an actual German U-boat in a museum in Chicago, I just thought it was such a badass idea to have home base be in a U-boat. I can't think of any other game where that's been the case. It's just really imaginative, just well thought out, well developed, and it was really cool.
Right. So we get here now to the part where this may be the second favorite part of the game for me.
This was like, oh right, this is a Bethesda game. The people that brought you Doom, the people that brought you Skyrim, like this is where the insane shit happens.
Okay, so you didn't beat like half of the game, the first game, right, Jack?
That's right.
Did you get to the moon?
In the first game?
Yes.
I didn't. I didn't know that happened.
Did you? Okay, so yeah, you go to the moon in the first game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is, by the way, where like it's not where the line like "fuck you, moon" comes from, but like they're alluding to the fact that you go to the moon later. And while I was playing through the second game, I was like, okay, the story's really great so far. It's like really fun. But like that first game had that set piece where they're like, we're just going to send you to the fucking moon for a mission. And I was like, are they going to top that? Are they maybe just not going to try?
Right.
And then they're like,
they sure went for it. All right.
Yeah. And then they were like, so we're going to send you to Venus.
So you're going to Venus because the Nazis built a base there so no one can discover like the research they're working on and their nuclear codes and whatever it was. And by the way, you're going to go there and meet Hitler, and you're also going to now kill this famous actor and impersonate him so you can audition for the role of BJ Blazkowicz in a movie that Hitler is making. A propaganda film to tell the tale of how they killed BJ Blazkowicz. So you're alive. The whole world thinks you're dead. I have no words. It's bonkers.
Yeah. I loved every second of that whole sequence where like you're pretending.
How much weed was being smoked in that writer's room, dude, at Machine Games when they came out with this whole sequence?
Like a village worth
of
weed for sure.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I loved every bit of that moment. The fact that you actually have to remember your lines because you're trying to be an actor. The fact that he tries to write them on his hands, but he sweats too much and they smudge up. Like it's really great.
I messed that part up a couple times too.
Oh, what happened when you messed it up? Did Hitler
shoot you in the face?
Of course he does.
Yeah,
Good.
you die. He's a psychopath. He's a maniac, dude. When you first meet Hitler, it's so scary because he's obviously senile. He's obviously lost his mind. He's delusional. He's having hallucinations. He just kills for fun, for no reason, and no one punishes him. That director lady who seems like she's a sane person, she just lets Hitler do whatever he wants. He pisses on the ground in front of everybody. He pukes all over the place. He cares not anymore, right? He's just completely gone, completely insane.
I mean, because he's won, right? Like he's God now.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the fact that you get to see Hitler there was really cool. Memorizing your lines was cool, and I loved how it's like, as an actor, you're not that great of a BJ, but when you're in combat, you're a really good BJ, but you're almost like the real BJ. You know, like how violent it gets when he's doing the quote stunts against that Nazi soldier.
He ends up, and the way that Hitler falls in love with him is that BJ just shoots the Nazi guy that he's doing the scene with, just kills him right there on the spot, and Hitler appreciates that brutality.
Now, let me ask you, there's that part where you're walking to that like glass box where you're going to do the scene with the Nazi soldier. Did you look at Hitler while you were walking there?
I learned after the fact that you could actually stomp his neck and break his neck.
Yes.
But you get killed immediately if you do that. And you have to restart. Did you do it?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I wish I did it in the gameplay, but I learned after the fact. I was just kind of, I guess I had my blinders on.
Right. No, I love that was a thing. You could like, I just thought you could look at him and it'd be like, oh, well, there's Hitler. And then you walk forward. But then the prompt came up like, press E. And I was like, no.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You get to kill Hitler.
For just a fleeting moment, but you cannot progress the game unless you leave him alive, sadly.
Right.
I guess that's for the sequel, right?
Yeah. And what's funny enough is later in the game, you'll read some postcards that Hitler is exchanging with that director lady. And he says, like, now that my secret base has been compromised, like, I'm going to move my base to an even more secret location. I'll tell you when, like, at an undisclosed time later. I can only assume we're going to go to Mars in Wolfenstein or the sun.
Yeah, the surface of the sun. That's fine. Maybe another galaxy. Maybe we'll go to where Mass Effect is.
Yeah.
In the next one. I wouldn't be surprised. Some space station somewhere.
Yeah,
but
man.
That was completely, that Venus level was so cool. I mean, that was completely out of left field. I had no idea. Who could ever predict that? Right. Oh, we're going to go fight Hitler on Venus.
Like, look, I even knew that they went to the moon in the first game, and I didn't even think, like, a whole nother planet. That makes sense.
That to me, that was the highlight of that whole scene on Venus was probably the highlight of the whole game for me.
Yeah,
in absolutely. A game full of awesome scenes, if you can't tell already.
Right. So let's see. We're getting toward the end here. So you get back to Earth.
They steal the codes. He successfully steal the codes.
And then you steal a flying saucer. That's right. The Nazis have developed a flying saucer that you can just travel between Venus and Earth. And by the way, when you do side missions that are on Venus, you just take that saucer back to Venus. It's very casual.
It's like you're going to the grocery store.
Yeah. So, you come back to Earth and they're like, yeah, we're gearing up. Now here's our next big mission. We're going to take the Ausmerzer. We're going to take that big ship that Frau Engel flies around all the time. We're going to stick it to the Nazis by taking that.
Yeah, when you actually get, I guess we'll get to this later, but you kind of return to early levels, right, in the game, because you start out on the Ausmerzer.
Yeah,
right? In the very beginning of the game. And so I was kind of like, oh, they're just rehashing this. I remember being here. That was kind of weird.
Right. So I don't know. For me, I'm curious. When you were starting out that mission, where did you feel you were in the game in terms of pacing? Like, did you feel like you were near the end?
Yeah, I thought I was near the end because it just seemed like a big deal to get those codes from Hitler. And like you seem like you're going back to take Earth back, kind of your Master Chief, right? And taking the fight to the Covenant. So I got that sense. And plus I knew that the game was roughly 10 hours or so. So I knew how long I had been playing. And I figured I got to be getting there soon. So I had the sense I was near the end. And then when I got up to the top of the Ausmerzer, and it reminded me of like the Avengers airship, except Nazified. And I was like, this looks cool. This looks great. Skyboxes are on point. I was like, this could totally be the end of the game.
Yeah, that last fight was kind of ass against those two giant mechs, like after a wave of the heavy soldiers.
It was a cool idea. It was easy for me because I played the game. Full disclosure, I played the game after struggling for a long time. I talked about it on the show. I put it all the way down to the easiest difficulty, and the game was so much more fun to play that way. I barely died. It took effort for me to die with that mode, but it just made the game more fun, I think, able to mow down Nazis. It felt like I was playing Geometry Wars in a way.
Right. I still kept it at normal, so that last bit was a little tough for me.
Did you die a bunch?
A bunch. It was a little tough.
Really?
Yeah.
So I didn't die once.
Yeah.
And I had so much ammo and stuff. It was just a good time.
Yeah, so I don't know. For me, when I beat those two giant mechs, I was feeling like, okay, so we just took the Ausmerzer, but like, there's got to be something else big. Like, there has to be something else bigger than this to like really.
Like Frau's still there, right? So what's that kind of fight gonna be like? You know?
Right. And I also liked. I'm curious what your thoughts were of that scene when Anya comes into the picture at the end of the Osmercer level.
Okay, so
And
you're on your way, right, to kill Frau, who is broadcasting from the Osmercer. She's broadcasting a show, like a late night talk show, right?
Well, no,
and
I
she's
thought
the guest.
She wasn't on the Osmercer. She was like at the studio on Earth.
Oh, the studio wasn't on the ship?
No.
Oh, I messed something up there.
The idea was that while the master is gone, you take the home.
Okay,
you know?
And then you land the ship and then go kill her? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Gotcha, my bad. Okay, so right before that, though, BJ gets in a little bit of trouble and gets bailed out by Anya. In that scene, do you want to detail what happens?
Sure. So
it's crazy, dude. It's
the door, like the door opens. There's like Panzerhunds and there's super soldiers and whatever. And Anya just like knee slides over, throws a couple grenades their way,
all in
and
slow
then
motion.
and then tackles BJ over like this little crevice so that way they are protected from the explosion. And then she straddles him, faces the Nazis, 2 assault rifles face at him, takes off her shirt, tits out, shoots everything.
Fully pregnant, by the way. Fully pregnant, completely topless, starts screaming bloody murder, blows up the Nazis, blood goes all over her, and she's just like 2 machine guns like, ah! like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando or some shit.
Yeah, and then the next scene you see her, she's wrapped in BJ's jacket. And I'm just like, that was interesting.
And what's the funny part that made me really laugh was when it cuts to BJ's face and he's just falling in love all over again.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not, though, right?
He's like, wow, it's just so awe-inspiring. It was a thing. It was a moment. Maybe some would say one of the best moments in gaming this year.
So we get to the final scene where you infiltrate this Tonight Show, the Jimmy Carver show.
Okay.
And there's Frau Engel. She's sitting there and she's like, oh, yeah, it was a blast to kill VJ Blazkowicz because he was the worst terrorist ever.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and you're just kind of sneaking through the crowd. And I don't know if you actually bothered to look at the crowd, but it was all just cardboard cutouts.
I did notice that, yeah, it was a fake.
And then just like laugh tracks and clap tracks, like no one was there. And you're crawling through, you're sneaking around through the bleachers, you get on this elevator to climb up, and like go over some catwalks.
Sneaking up on stage with nothing but a hatchet.
Nothing but a hatchet.
Because he's like, this has got to be close. He said something like that, to that effect.
Yeah. And you get to the stage and they see you, and Frau pulls out a pistol to try and kill you, and she loses an arm in the process. It's such a great moment. She tries to stab you, and BJ's like, that's great and all, but I'm going to put a hatchet in your eyeball.
In your face.
And then twist it around to make sure your skull literally cracks.
Splits in half,
apart.
eyeball out on her cheek. Oh, it was graphic, but it's the only way. It's the only way.
It was very gruesome.
Frau Engel could have gone down. She deserved worse.
Yes. And while that scene was very cool, that's the end. And to me, it felt a little bit abrupt, honestly. It felt kind of like, maybe like something else, like maybe a big boss battle. No,
hard to say, but somewhat anticlimactic.
A little
for
bit.
Sure. It took me by surprise. And I was like, oh, just another cutscene. I was okay with this. And then it flashed like Wolfenstein II, like for a frame. Right. And I was like, oh no. And then it flashed Machine Games, and I was like, "Oh no, this is the end. This is the credits. Oh shit!" I was sad, but I guess it's because you're so engrossed in the story, and you want it to keep going.
See, part of me had like high hopes for a second because when they flashed Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus, I was like, "Are they pulling a Dragon Age Inquisition?" Where like 30 hours in, they show you the title of the game, and then there's like 70 hours more of gameplay. Is that what's going on here? But knowing Machine Games, knowing what Wolfenstein the New Order was like, there's no way, right? Like that was the end. And as cool as it was, like the journey was incredible. I think it just stumbles a little bit there at the end because I think they very clearly wanted to set up a sequel, a trilogy of some kind, and they decided like this is a good cutting off point for us to launch Wolfenstein 3, the new game.
Man, and with this end and with this story here, I'm just so looking forward. I'm so heavily anticipating Wolfenstein 3.
Same.
I'm just like, because Mecha Hitler is in it. It has to be that. Mecha Hitler is a very famous retro villain from the very first Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah,
on Amiga or some shit. Like and we've been waiting ever since we heard Wolfenstein was making a comeback. You're waiting for Mecha Hitler at all times, and it's gonna happen now.
Man, I cannot wait for that. That game is gonna be incredible.
I'm like genuinely very, very, very excited. It's been a long time since I've anticipated a sequel like this. Yeah. Ooh, it's gonna be good.
Man, that game is so good. It's so good.
It's good, but then it leaves you with a sour taste in your mouth at the very end because.
Look, I'm a fan of Twisted Sister. Right? They've got like 2 good songs. They're pretty good stuff.
They got some good songs. They got some rock anthems, some arena anthems.
Oh, absolutely. If you're not familiar with Twisted Sister, go listen to their 2 songs that they're known for. And
Mr. Sister.
And they have this one song called "We're Not Gonna Take It." Great power anthem. Great, fuck the man. We're not gonna take it.
Oh.
And the game ends with a death metal, not death metal, but like it's hard. Really,
it's like a prog metal.
Yeah, it's the super heavy
choir / screamo / terrible / off key, which is the most grievous offense. Is it's off key.
I think the bigger offense is how long it goes, because I was like, it has to be over now, right? And like, nope, no, it's not. What about now? No.
Easily, I want to say that this is one of the worst songs I've ever heard at the end of a game, but I am going to go out on a limb and say this might be one of the worst songs I've ever heard.
Same. And they decided to end the game with it. And I love the meaning of the song. We're not going to take it, you Nazis. We're going to fight.
And I like the idea. Yeah, I like the idea of a metal cover of that song. It's just the thought and the concept is right there, but I'm with you. But the execution was lacking.
Not so great. But look, even though the game kind of stumbles at the end, it has so many good moments. Look, we've been talking about this for like 50 minutes. And I'm assuming that you've played through this at this point too. So how good it is. You just listen to us gush about a game that you beat yourself.
Any game. I mean, you talk about the greats, right? You talk about like BioShock, Metal Gear. You talk about some of the great storylines, some of the Uncharted games, The Witcher. Any one of these scenes in Wolfenstein would be the highlight of almost any game. But to have like a dozen incredible, like I'm dead serious, man, incredible scenes, like so densely packed into one game. If the gameplay could only hold a candle, right, to the story, this game would be one of the best games of all time. But it's not a perfect game. The gameplay, the moment to moment combat, the shooting, a bit of the repetition, it has its issues. But I still fully and wholeheartedly recommend this game to anyone that enjoys video games at all. I would say
good story, I think.
Yeah, like you need to play this game. It's a must play, I think, because look, I watch a lot of movies, we watch a lot of shows between the 3 of us on the show, and this story like is one of the strongest of any entertainment medium that I can think of. This is a great story that needs to be experienced, especially with like the way that the country is now and the commentary that this game has on that political climate. It's it even hits an extra chord. So I have to say I really truly love this game. I think it's a great game. One of the best of the year. We'll see what happens. How it stands up with the other great games came out this year. But I mean, I would say, it. Like I said, if you're here listening to this now, you know how good it is.
Yeah, absolutely. This game was fantastic, and it was a great sequel to like the first game, which I didn't expect to have like a super stellar story. I just thought, this will be a fun little romp through Wolfenstein, killing some Nazis.
Now I get a treat. Now I get to go play the second half of the first game now.
Yeah.
That's like a treat for me.
Which is also very good.
Yeah, I'm very excited to do it now because it'll be like playing the prequel.
Yeah, that's the best way to think of it.
Yeah.
This game is like magnificent. It's the kind of game where like you could play it in a room with your friends and like try to just work to get to the cutscenes, and it'd just be like a treat sit there with people and like watch what it is. Like this honestly kind of makes me want a Wolfenstein movie, like based in this imagining of Wolfenstein and this, alternate history 1960s world. Like it's so great. It's cool.
The only studio I can think of, there's 2 studios that I feel like do storyline and cutscenes as good as this, and one of them's fucking Blizzard. And then the other one is Naughty Dog. I think for sure. I think they're all operating at an elite level in this. So it's something to see. It's
too bad those cutscenes Blizzard makes will never be in a game, but Hey, what can you do?
Did you get the achievement for staying after the credits?
Yeah, no.
You didn't stay on? You shut the game down before the credits were over?
Remind me what happens at the end there.
Well, you wake up at the U-boat and you get to continue playing.
Right. I don't know. I do remember staying after the credits, but I don't remember like getting an achievement for it.
Okay. All right.
But yeah. Yeah, what's unfortunate in this game, this doesn't really have an end game. All you can do is like do those side missions where you kill the Ober commandos.
You say it's not really worth it.
It's not worth it. You just go through the levels you've already gone through in the game, but without a strong story to like keep you going, like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, it's hard to stick with it.
So what? But there is a big choice. We kind of brushed over that. There is a big choice to make early in the game where you decide who lives and who dies, and you choose between who, Wyatt and who?
Wyatt and Fergus.
So we both pick Fergus, but apparently if you play as Wyatt, that's the only way to see the LSD, yeah, like hallucination scene that will look like made waves at E3 and was one of the big reasons I want to play this game. So to me, that's the reason to go back and replay it, is to see the other storyline. I wonder what levels were or experiences were maybe like Fergus exclusive, right?
Right.
Like, do you not even go to New Orleans? Does it even get that crazy? Like, who knows?
No, I think
probably
like
go to New Orleans.
All the major story beats are there. I know because I've seen video of like the ending. Wyatt makes a really good speech at the end, like after you kill Frau Engel and like you're talking to the American people.
Okay.
I mean, he makes a really nice speech there, which is cool.
Revolution. Viva
yeah.
Revolution.
No, this game is fantastic. Definitely one of the gems in this amazing year.
Yeah,
for software. Like, holy crap.
It's fantastic, man. It's probably time to wrap it up, man. It's too much Nazi killing for one episode.
Yeah, it's time to probably end this. Just know that like this game may not win my game of the year, which is not a testament against this game, but a testament to just how great this whole year has been, honestly.
This is going to be one of my fondest memories this year.
Absolutely.
Like, it's definitely a standout.
Top 5 for sure.
Stand out easily.
So yeah, that should be it for us on this Tiny Disc Big Spoilers episode here. Probably don't need to do our normal sign-offs yet. So you can hit us.
Yeah, you're going to get an extra episode. You're going to get a regular episode too on top of these spoiler casts. So
yes,
look forward to that.
So yeah, we're still going to do our normal episode. Tune in for that on Thursday. And we'll see you later.
Wolfenstein.
Bye-bye.